Parts with compound curvatures or parts with severe shapes or deep-drawn parts are often formed by drop hammers. On rope-operated drop hammers, the forming blow is a result of gravity alone. But on pneumatic hammers, the pressure of an air column combines with gravity to produce the form. On both types, the part is formed by the punch forcing the metal blank into the die. On the pneumatic hammer, the hammer head is controlled by a treadle and a lever. Stepping on the treadle raises the hammer head and releases the safety catches. Then, keeping your foot on the treadle, you operate the lever. Before you remove a finished part, lock the hammer in the up position by taking your foot off the treadle to engage the safety catches. The bar over the treadle is a safeguard against accidentally stepping on the treadle and releasing the safety catches before you're ready. Wear safety shoes which are reinforced with metal. You're working around heavy parts and dies. Forming different parts requires different dies. And setting up the die is just as important for doing a good job as the actual operation of the hammer. This punch and die are for wheel well channel parts. The material most often used for the die is a zinc alloy. The punch is generally cast from lead. Be sure that the die set is unloaded as near as possible to the center of the hammer bed. Then, before doing anything else, put a metal spacer block on the punch as protection in case the hammer head drops accidentally. Next, measure the die set to be sure that its area meets the minimum required by the size of the hammer head. Screw studs into the top of the punch. These studs are used to fasten the punch to the hammer head. Be sure all the studs are screwed in tightly. Now inspect the top of the punch to see that it's free of marked casting irregularities. Then, lower the hammer head to check the lineup of the studs with the stud holes in the head. The studs do not line up, so the die set must be moved. Raise the hammer head. Place a strong guide bar at an angle against the punch. Bring the head down gently to hit the bar with soft blows and move the die set a little at a time. Continue the light blows and change the position of the guide bar when necessary until the studs line up with the holes in the hammer head. Now you can remove the spacer block. Drop the hammer all the way down. Place nuts on the studs and then tighten them with an air wrench. Now bring the head with the punch attached slowly down on the die. This makes sure that the punch and die are in alignment. There are several methods for anchoring the die to the hammer bed. For this die, lead will be used, so bolt metal chill blocks to the hammer bed at all four corners of the die. When the chill blocks are in place, you're ready to pour the lead. But first put on gloves and a safety mask. Then fill a ladle with molten lead and pour it between the blocks and the die. A lead furnace is usually right near the drop hammer. The gloves and safety mask protect you from splashing lead. The lead itself quickly hardens and holds the die firmly in place. Now test the die setup. Hit the treadle to release the safety catches. Ease the hammer down. Punch and die line up so you're ready for production. First, lubricate the blank. Put it in place on the die by means of the locating pins. Just as you did before, hit the treadle. Now watch the hammer. To control it for the forming blow, lower it part way, raise it, and then snap the lever. Lowering and raising the head builds up air pressure, and the snap releases it for the blow that forms the part. Build up pressure, snap the lever for the forming blow. When the run is completed, dismantle the setup. Lower the punch on the die. Then detach the punch from the head by removing the nuts from the studs. Next, lift the head and remove the bolts from the chill box. Break up the lead mold so that the die can be removed and the one for the next job installed. This part is comparatively deep. Forming a deep draw like this on the drop hammer is more critical than forming a shallow draw, because if a part were deep drawn by a single blow, such as the first part we made, it could be ruined by wrinkles and buckles. So, to minimize wrinkling and buckling, draw rings like these are used. A steel ring, the one on the top of the pile, is placed over the part, and the other rings made of plywood go on top of the steel one. For the deep drawing operation, first lubricate the die as well as the blank. Place the blank over the die. Lay the steel draw ring on top of the blank. Now put the plywood rings over the steel one. Snap the lever for the blow. Since the base of the punch hits the rings, the punch forces the metal only a small way into the die. Pressure transmitted through the rings tends to hold the flanges of the blank in place, discouraging wrinkling and buckling. After the first blow, remove the top ring with a safety tool. This tool grips the ring with a suction cup and makes it unnecessary for you to put your hands under the hammer. Hit the part again and remove another ring. This permits the punch to penetrate more deeply into the die. As each ring is removed, the part is gradually made deeper. During the forming, lock the hammer head to check the part. If wrinkles creep out from the flanges, hammer them down with a rawhide mallet. This prevents later hammer blows from buckling the metal. Replace the rings and continue the operation. Finally, remove the steel ring and strike the last blow on the bare metal. Hammer out the wrinkles. But since most of the flange will be trimmed, don't worry about wrinkles more than a ½ inch beyond the inner edge of the die. This is the finished part. And this is the way the part would have appeared if it had been formed without the use of drawrings. Remember, in drop hammer work, proper setting up of the die is as important as actual operation of the hammer. After installing studs in the punch, center the die set with a guide bar and light taps of the hammer. When the studs line up with the holes in the head, tighten the nuts on the studs. Lead in the corners of the die after placing the chill box in position. Be sure to wear gloves and a mask. Lubricate the metal blank and place it on the die's locating pins. Work the lever, build up air pressure, and strike the forming blow. Always always be sure the safety catch is engaged before you reach under the hammer. Drop hammers are massive machines operating with great force, but complicated and severely shaped parts can be formed when this force is controlled by a skilled operator.